Hello, welcome to another episode of Super FX, the show where we talk about video games, their history, their significance, their loveliness, their stupidity, and oh so much more. I'm Tyler.
I'm Matt.
And this is episode 2. How's it going, Matt?
It's going well. We made it to episode 2. This is the threshold, the breaking point.
Is it? Is that the one where most podcasts drop off? They typically do one episode.
I feel like yeah. That's certainly where most video series on YouTube drop off. The first video always has 1 million views, and then you go to episode 2 and it's got 212,000 views.
Well, I'm glad that we've made it across that hump.
Oh, me too. And what a hump it'll be. But
yeah, how's your week been? What you been up to?
It's been pretty good. Other than just giving lessons and playing video games, I haven't really been doing too much else, which has been kind of nice. It's nice to have more time to myself lately, because I just recently... I guess I'll take this time to mention. I used to work at a video game store, so I have a lot of experience doing that. And recently, I decided to refocus on my linguistics and language instructions. So I'm still part of the family, as it were, of the store where I used to work. And I have tons of stories.
Family.
Yeah, the game store family. Store's called Video Game Trading Post, and the owner, Mike, I love him. He just, VGTP, we shorten it, and we have some secret groups that he just labels VGTP Family, and then for the second store, VGTP Family 2.0, and so I'm still going back there all the time and hanging out and encountering the worst people in the world who come shopping, and it's awesome. So I'll have plenty of stories to tell from when I had experience working there, and I still have stories to tell as a customer witnessing other customers. So it's going to be awesome.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
Yeah. What about you though? How's your week been?
It was fine. I mean, the weather's finally warming up a little bit here. Up in northern Canada. So it's been nice to kind of get outside. Trees are a little bit bloomy.
Mm-hmm.
Got that COVID poke finally.
Yeah. I got my second one too recently. So Bill Gates has been
number
calling
one
me
for
nonstop. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're behind. It sounds like for us it'll still be a number of months before the second one comes our way. But case numbers are down. Things are slowly starting to get back to normal. So feeling pretty good about that.
That's good. Hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person again. It's been too fucking long.
Those borders have been closed for
a
long time now.
Hey,
I remember last year when we were planning. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just book a flight. This was back in March maybe, and of 2020, maybe April. And I was like, yeah, I'll book a flight for August, and everything will be back to normal by then. We'll figure it out. And worst case scenario, I'll just cancel it.
And then
here we are,
scenario.
14 months later.
I miss you. I miss your face. I miss your rockin' bod.
I know, dude. I know, don't we all? I've been working from home, and that rockin' bod is no more.
Oh, that's too bad. I'll have you know that my rockin' bod never began, so being home for all the time I was during the pandemic didn't have nearly the effect on me that I thought it would. I'm exactly the same amount of fat slop as I was before.
No, you look lovely. The hair really makes up for it, I think.
Oh, we're talking about my head hair, right?
What you been playing this week, Matt?
I'm still working on Pokemon Colosseum, but I'm almost done. I'm in the midst of the Mount Battle Challenge, and I'm on Fight 78, I think is where I left off. And
dear Lord.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was going to be a little bit more daunting, but I guess because there are 100 fights in a row, Genius Sonority, the developers of Pokemon Colosseum, decided, let's just make them all incredibly easy. So I'm just kind of breezing my way through, but it's very tedious. This is what we were talking about before, where the mindlessness of a Pokemon run comes in. This is one of the times where it's very mindless. And even before this, I sent you a video of me trying to purify the Pokemon in story mode, which is required before going to Mount Battle. And I just found a spot in the game where I could hold down infinitely to purify the Pokemon by walking. So I did the old trick where I unplugged the GameCube controller, held up on the joystick, and then plugged it back in so that it thinks that center is down. And then I just put the controller down and had some Mountain Dew.
Would you say you're having fun?
Yes, I am having fun, but it is more tedious than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I can't imagine personally getting to the point where I think the extent that I've done with that is I remember in Pokemon X and Y there was a egg hatching tactic you could do where there was like the little like I don't know what you call it in America, like the little roundabout circly thing.
Oh
It
yeah,
went around. It went around like a tower, because I think that was
yeah,
the one that was like that was like Paris themed. And
yeah.
so what you could do is like jam like a coin underneath the circle pad, and you could just
And just
cycle in
cycle in one
circles.
direction. Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, around like the little Eiffel Tower or whatever it was.
yeah.
I think that was probably the extent that to hatch eggs or whatever. That was probably the extent that I've went to, grind mindlessly.
Yeah, it's honestly, once I discovered that trick, I thought to myself, well, this is it. This is peak mindlessness. And the fact that that trick exists is a godsend, because I couldn't have imagined having to sit there and hold down by myself, like actually holding the controller down, or having to walk around every 256 steps, and a little bit of the like shadow meter depletes on each Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because there are 48 Pokemon to purify, and as you go through the game, if you're purifying them as you get them, it becomes easier later on. But there comes a certain point in the game where they just throw a bunch of shadow Pokemon at you really close to the end, when you already have a full team of 6 Pokemon that you're using to fight. So you don't have any space in your party to start purifying anybody anymore. And they just kind of build up until the end game, when you have to find a spot to walk, because there aren't really any other fights to put them out in to purify them that way, which I don't even think that that's faster. And it also requires brain power. I'd rather just sit there and have them purify. The purification process took, I think, 14 hours total, which
Dear Lord.
thank goodness for the GameCube controller trick.
Well, while you've been having what sounds like oh so much fun with that,
You're actually having fun.
yeah, I have. I've been playing the new Pokemon Snap.
Tell me about it, because I've been really wanting to play it, but since I started this challenge, I don't know when I'm going to be able to.
Yeah, I've been really having fun with it. I think the atmosphere is really special. I think in this game, you spend most of your time in like these lush, dense environments, and they just feel like very well crafted, very well thought out. I love the hub world. That little hub kind of area is the Pokemon Research Park, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And I just think the game as a package is just really charming. And I haven't. I'm a few hours in. I would say maybe 4-ish hours in. And normally I would say like around this time is where it's kind of the make it or break it for me for a game. Like 3-4 hours, if I'm really not feeling it, like that's about the time that I would put it down and maybe move on to something else. But I'm definitely going to continue with it. I feel, even if I go through, so for those who are not familiar with Pokemon Snap, the new Pokemon Snap is based on the N64 original, and it's kind of a reimagining of the original game. And the premise is kind of you're in a kind of on rails cart with a camera, and essentially you go through a little pathway. It takes about a minute or two to go through one kind of trail, and you take photos of Pokemon, and you just control the camera, and along the way you're given a different kind of maneuvers, as it were. You get kind of a fruit at the beginning is the first one you get that you can throw at Pokemon, which will make them do different things. They'll eat the fruit, or you can bonk it off their head and they'll react in different ways, and you can kind of find branching paths by doing that kind of thing. And what I was really impressed with is I feel like even if I go through a route a number of times, if I do the same kind of level a bunch of times, I always seem to discover something that I missed the first time around. There's
Yeah.
always something new. They do a really good job of kind of keeping it fresh. The game kind of encourages you to do the same stage a couple times, and there's even like the day stage and the night stage and different versions of the same kind of essential path, but with the branching paths, and they kind of throw different things each time that you go through the route. It just keeps it really fresh. So yeah, I've been really having fun with it. That said, I think it really does have some pacing issues. When it comes to it's Professor Mirror, I think his name is Professor Mirror. I think is that a camera pun, or is Professor Mirror in another Pokemon game?
How is it spelled? Is it actually mirror?
Mirror. Yeah, Mirror.
I don't. Well, in Pokemon Colosseum, there's a character called Mirror B, but it's spelled MIRROR.
Yeah, I don't. I'm pretty sure this one had double R. I imagine it's a camera pun, but nonetheless,
Probably.
you know, at the end of each mission, I guess you go and you talk to Professor Mirror, and he says, "Oh, which photos would you like to show me?" And you go through all the photos you took. You can take up to, I think it's like 60 or 70 photos per run, and you have to go through and pick each one individually and say like, "This is the one I like best," and there is like an autocomplete, like you can just make it pick for you. But even still, even if you do that, he still goes through each photo that you're submitting to him individually and says like, "Wow, this one's great." Like each time, and you're just hitting, you know, it's a.
Well, the original
like, come
Pokemon
on.
Snap operated like that too.
It was the same thing, and that was one of the kind of quality of life improvements that I kind of wished had come along with it. But
I feel they probably kept it the same to like appeal to the fans of the original Pokemon Snap, so that they had that sense of nostalgia. Like, oh, this is just
Yeah.
like in the N64 game. Wonderful.
it's really possible. Yeah, exactly. So I do feel like I spend a lot of time in menus. I almost feel like I spend more time in the menus than playing the game. Especially at the beginning, there's a lot of tutorial stuff. But you know, but this all said, you know, last episode I talked a little bit about how I love games that have some sense of linearity to them, especially on the Switch. Like with this game, it's really easy for me to kind of jump in and spend 20 minutes or whatever doing a couple stages and then put it down and kind of move on with my life. And I think especially with the Switch, I think it really lends itself well to that type of experience. So I'm really glad that that's kind of the way they did it. You know, I think they could have went a ton of different directions with the game, especially being a sequel. But they really kind of stood their ground with the kind of the core gameplay of it, and so I really appreciated that.
I'm really happy to hear you say that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You should be excited to play it. One thing that I think they really nailed as well is that there's a slew of like camera and control options. I think with something like a photography game, I think that's super important that you have all of the options of like, you know, change the axis and like invert the, you know, the control scheme, and you can like zoom, like speed up how fast the camera pans and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a ton of options for that. So I was really, really happy to see that. This is a spoiler, but it's like a 30 minutes in spoiler. Todd comes back. They included Todd.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
was really happy. Yeah, Todd does come back. You don't play as Todd, but he comes back to say hi, basically. I looked this up. I didn't know this, but I looked this up. Dude's fucking name is Todd Snap.
Yeah. You didn't know that, really?
No, what kind of, when the localization team came in, and they like, you know, 'cause I think the Japanese name for the guy is Toru. And they were like, "Oh, Todd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's name him Todd." And they're like, "Okay, but
Yeah.
he needs a last name." And they're like, "I don't know, how about Snap?" And it was probably the same folks who were like, "Oh yeah, let's name the name character Red."
Well, because like, so the Japanese word "toru" means to take a photo. So I guess like if you,
It makes a little bit
so
more sense.
It does, yeah. So like, shashi no toru means literally to take a photo. Toru means the taking part. And I guess if you wanted to make it known that it was specifically a word to be used with a photo, take is not the best option to use. So I guess snap is probably better. Snap a picture.
Todd Snap, Mr. Pokemon
Yeah.
Snap.
Mr. Pokemon Snap. I still think it's goofy though, because like his name is Todd Snap in the game about taking pictures. Like, was he
game called
born to do
Pokemon
this
Snap.
job? Yeah. Like Ash
Yeah.
Ketchum. It's like, oh, gee, I wonder what he's gonna do in this series.
Yeah, I digress. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really amazed at how well they kind of managed to capture the magic of the original game. Regular listeners of the show by this point will know that by now atmosphere is really important to me in games.
Yeah.
And it just makes it really special. And I have really fond memories of the original Pokemon Snap on N64. It was one of I think the few games that I really played through with my sister. We played that one together. So
Yeah.
it's something that's pretty special to me. I have really vivid memories of discovering the Poke Flute and just screaming at the top of my lungs as a 6-year-old with my sister that we unlocked something new in the game.
Did you ever go
so
to
I-
any of the kiosks?
No, we didn't have them. I kind of grew up in a small town in northern Canada, and we didn't have one of those. So I remember when we went to MagFest together, some guy brought a refurbished one.
Yeah,
there. I really
and
wanted to
we
use
didn't
it,
get
but
to use it because there was a line wrapped
No.
around the friggin' convention center.
oh yeah, everybody wanted to use that Pokemon Snap kiosk.
Yeah, I didn't get to use one in my childhood either because by the time I owned Pokemon Snap, they were already out of Blockbusters. They'd moved on.
Womp womp.
Yep.
I think they did a really phenomenal job of kind of capturing the essence of what is Pokemon Snap. And I think it's interesting. So, there's a million directions they could have went with this one, especially in an era where, photography is in such a weird state with smartphones and film is really making a resurgence and so on. But I think this was really interesting to me. What Nintendo has really done here, I think, for the first time is that, Nintendo is kind of famous for not really doing a sequel if they can't find a way to do it differently. I think Miyamoto-san has really hammered that to death in the past, and I think we saw that with Star Fox Zero. For instance, they were adamant that they weren't going to do just another Star Fox 64. They're not. Star Fox 64 exists. We're not going to do it again. We're going to make something different, right? And but we still want to kind of we know people want to have Star Fox 64, but we're going to do it we're not going to release the same game again, even though they did on 3DS.
I'm glad you brought it up so I didn't have to.
Yeah, I think that mindset for Nintendo has kind of really handcuffed them in the past, especially for Star Fox Zero. I think people just wanted another Star Fox 64. They wanted Star Fox 64 2, right? And I think it is that in certain ways, but different story for another day. With Pokemon Snap, it really does just feel like more of the original, but but modernized, but HDified.
Yeah. But I think after this much time, that's not really the worst idea in the world. It's been so long since we last had Pokemon Snap anything, so the fact that it is so reminiscent of the original, I think, is an okay move, because it gets people back into the groove of what Pokemon Snap is, and then maybe if they make another sequel down the line, then they can start to experiment with something a little different.
Totally, yeah. If the sales are there, and
yeah.
But I do think it really bodes well for the kind of the future of Nintendo, and if they're cool to do more of the same, as it were, like they did here.
Right.
Does that mean we might see more of the same when it comes to FZero or things like Metroid?
I'm praying every day.
If they're more open to this mindset of hey, we're cool with just kind of releasing more of the same of Pokemon Snap, then what does that mean for kind of these other franchises that they've been sitting on, seemingly for the reason that we don't just want to release the same game again?
But there are a lot of games that they're sitting around for that reason, and yet I don't really understand exactly what could be changed or tweaked to make a phenomenally different experience. Because at the core of some of these series, they're pretty basic, because a lot of them started when video games were basic. I mean, FZero is a futuristic car racing game where you hover above the track, and there is some incentive to kill your fellow racers instead of just go past them. Which I think is a great idea, but it's so simplistic. How do you make it different enough to warrant putting out a new game under that principle? They're able to figure it out with Mario Kart, and I don't understand why they don't just implement sort of the same basic mechanics that they've decided to tweak and change into F-Zero. Obviously, we don't have to make it cartoony. You don't have to give a hang glider to the Blue Falcon, but, you could do something a little bit different. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot to it that, we are not and may never be familiar with deep behind the doors
I mean, I'm not a game designer, but I still hope and pray for another F-Zero, because it's one of my favorite racing games, and there's just I love Mario Kart. if you ask me what I would rather play with friends, F-Zero or Mario Kart, I'll probably say Mario Kart because I think it's a better multiplayer experience. But if you ask me which I wanted to play for 8 hours a day as a job, I would always pick F-Zero. It's just so much more high-octane, engaging on your own.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think them doing this new Pokemon Snap, I was surprised at how similar it was, and so I think that does kind of bode well for maybe some other series that they might be sitting on. Shall we move to the news?
Yeah. Let's hit up that gamer news with a Z, or it legally doesn't count. With a Z.
That's how we say it here in Canada.
Yeah. One of my all-time favorite Super Nintendo games is Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and it was announced recently that it and its sequel, Ghoul Patrol, which I've actually never played, but I do have it, and I want to get around to it at some point. They're being re-released on the Switch in like a little LucasArts package deal.
Yeah, okay, so two things kind of interest here. One is I had no idea that Ghoul Patrol was the sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I have played Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it had a sequel. I have seen, at like game stores and stuff, I've seen Ghoul Patrol, and I think the cover art is just so vastly different. Like the style is so vastly different
It's
didn't
hard
really
to tell.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like you see so many like classic games, you see so many cartridges and box arts and that kind of thing, that like you kind of like you see the art, you don't even have to read the text, you're just like, oh yeah, that game.
Yeah.
And you kind of like keep flipping through. That was kind of what Ghoul Patrol had become for me. Like I just recognized the art and I was like, oh yeah, that game. But I never really like knew what the hell it was, and I never bought it because I never knew what it was.
Yeah.
And so when this was announced, it was like, Zombies Ate My Neighbors / Ghoul Patrol, like combo pack. And I was like, hold on, what?
I think this is going to be fantastic because not only will it allow people to play Zombies Ate My Neighbors for probably the first time, because I know tons of people who still haven't experienced that gem, but more people will now know that Ghoul Patrol even exists.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because while you were sitting around going, "Oh, Ghoul Patrol, okay," just not knowing that it was the sequel to Zombies Ate My Neighbors, for a really long time, I didn't even know that game existed, because no one I knew had ever played it. They never talked about it. They didn't know it existed either. I think it was less than 10 years ago, I think, that I realized it even was real. It was a real game.
Yeah. One thing, the other thing that was kind of interesting to me is that Disney really seems to be marketing, because when this is announced, it's like Lucasfilm Games. Like, this is a Lucasfilm game. Like, classic Lucasfilm, we're re-releasing it, right? And that's really interesting to me. Like, Disney, when they bought Lucasfilm, they shuttered LucasArts, basically. Like, that was it. They kind of absorbed the assets and they closed the studios, and that was it. So it's really interesting to me and like somewhat promising to me that they are, at least see the value in the brand, because obviously Lucasfilm, LucasArts and Lucasfilm Games has like such a history that it's I think it deserves to be used in that way. So I hope that this is not something that they're just doing for like retro revivals, and that maybe it's going to be something that they continue using that branding for for new stuff, perhaps. Like, if they, who knows, but like, if they were to do like a Zombies Ate My Neighbors 3 or whatever,
oh my
that'd
goodness.
be really cool for them to do like a, to use that branding. I thought it was really interesting that they're like going so kind of headstrong with that branding.
Yeah. I wonder if it might have something to do with the, like this choice of games specifically, because like you mentioned, like when Disney took over Lucasfilm, they were just like, nope, we're going to shut down LucasArts, goodbye, see you later. These two games, even though they were developed by LucasArts, they were published at the time under different companies. Konami published Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and JVC, of all companies, published Ghoul Patrol. And I wonder if that's maybe why they feel like releasing these ones, because they don't have nearly as close of a connection publisher-wise to LucasArts. Right. I don't know. That's complete speculation. I don't think that holds a candle at all, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting because Disney had kind of said, like, we're going to do mobile games, we're going to do, like, social games, that kind of thing, casual market, and nothing
Yeah.
else. But they did announce under the same property, under the Lucasfilm Games brand, they're doing an Indiana Jones game with Todd Howard.
Hmm.
And, a bunch of new Star Wars stuff coming out. So I'm just happy to see that, they're not just kind of shuttering. I mean, I guess they did shutter the games division, but at least kind of operating it in some aspects that kind of harken back to the Lucasfilm branding, because I do think that's a valuable property for them, and it's
Yeah.
nice to see it used.
And I mean, LucasArts is responsible for some of my favorite and many people's favorite beloved PC and DOS era video games. I would love to see if this like gives them some clout. If people really do go for this, and it gives them more of a name. It gives the Lucasfilm part of Disney more of a name to start releasing more games. I would love to see more Monkey Island. I would love to see another Zombies.
Who wouldn't?
Oh, I mean, oh man, can we get it like another Day of the Tentacle? Can I get that?
It's I mean, somebody
Maniac Mansion 3?
They know, right? Like, they know that there's people who want that, and like that's something that they're sitting on, and they could easily, they know that, right?
Because I mean, we keep getting all of these games remastered and re-released, and like they get more and more recognition every time they have that happen. But if they just decided out of the blue, all right, we're Disney, we have control of Lucasfilm, we have control of the LucasArts name. How would you guys like a Monkey Island sequel, a completely original one that continues the story somehow? Let's go.
I'm down. I know I'm down. I know a ton of people who would be down.
Yeah,
so,
I'm down
fingers
just
crossed.
thinking about it.
For real. Those new DualSense controllers that Sony showed off this week are pretty fucking sick.
Goodness. I'm in love with that red controller. It's my favorite color.
This is I don't normally I don't ever buy red anything, really. Red is always like the last color of anything that I want to buy,
Heathen.
My car, my phone case, like anything like that. I like never want to buy a red thing. But looking at these two controllers, there's a black one and a red one, and that red one is so damn sexy. I would buy that thing in a heartbeat. So when it comes time, I there's not really a ton for multiplayer on the PS5 at this point.
Yeah, there's barely anything for single player.
That's true. When it comes time for me to pick up a second PS5 controller, that red one, I don't know. I mean, the black one looks pretty sick too, but that red one.
What I think is always interesting as a collector is having to decide when something new comes out and new different variations of controllers and consoles come out. What do I get first? And I try to get stuff at launch because I like to be a part of the history. And so, of course, I have a regular DualSense because it came with my PlayStation 3. PlayStation 5.
Wow, you were only 2 off.
Yeah, that's fine. I just taped that one and my PS2 together, and I got
only like
I was
14
able to will
years
it into
away.
Existence. Yeah, right. But now that they've announced more controllers, I get to experience this. Like it's kind of a collector's dread where I do want both of these, but I'll probably only be able to get one right away. Now, in this case, one of them's red. I don't have to even remotely give as much thought this time around as I would another time. One of them's red, I'm going to get the red one. But if the colors were like black and blue and yellow and green, all great colors too, I would be like, which one do I want more? And then I have to wait to get the other ones. And what if they end up going up in price? Like, not at retail, I mean like used. But then again, with everything going on with scalping, maybe even at retail.
Does this change your mind? I'm just reading the kind of press release here. The Midnight Black DualSense is priced at $69.99, the same price as the original DualSense, while the Cosmic Red DualSense costs $74.99. There's a premium. It's $5 more.
Why?
I mean, who knows? Like, they had to anodize the aluminum molecules to accept the red dye.
Is that red paint deco made with gold?
$5 worth.
Yeah, that's a lot of gold.
Uh, yeah, so I'm definitely going to be picking one of those up.
Yeah.
The kind of slow couple weeks for news, hey?
Yeah.
I think Resident Evil 8 or Village came out. I
Yeah.
know people have been really hyped about that. I've heard a lot of good things.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, giant zombie mom waifus aside. It sounds like it looks pretty good. So I don't think that's going to be top of my list to play anytime soon, but something I will get to eventually for sure.
Same here. I picked it up, and if all goes well, and I'm able to finish the Pokemon run in a timely manner, I think that's probably the game I'll play next.
Yeah.
Who knows when that's going to be, though?
Yeah. I just got, so we can move into our the pickups of the past couple weeks.
Yeah, please.
So for the listeners not in Canada, we have a store called Shoppers Drug Mart, and Shoppers Drug Mart is a standard grocery / drug store, similar to like Walgreens, CVS kind of deal. And Shoppers Drug Mart has a very good and strong and popular points kind of campaign where you get, they call them optimum points. You get optimum points over time. You're able to kind of redeem on whenever you want, really, but there are certain times of the year where they'll have like a redeem your points event, and you get like extra dollar value for redeeming your points. And so I've been kind of strategically stacking these points, and they have events where you get more points for you spend $50 and you get like 20 times the points is one of their common ones. So I've been kind of strategically stacking these for the past year or two, and I finally had like a ton of points, and they had one of these events, so I was able to get a whole bunch of new Switch games. So here's which I should probably mention. The drugstore has, if you're lucky, some other locations have a little tiny electronics section that nobody ever touches, and they have like I think they really call it like their digital photo center, where they have like a couple of like those Kodak booths where you can print off your pictures from your SD card.
Right.
But they also sell games, and the games are always like sometimes a game that will come out and it'll be a more popular big name game like a FIFA game or something like that. They'll put it on the shelf and it'll sit there and collect dust for like months on end, and the price will never change. And so here we are, the next FIFA's coming out, and they're still selling last year's FIFA full price, $79.99 Canadian. But what they did recently is that they opened an online store, and I think this was maybe a response to COVID. But they opened an online store, and so now pretty much any of their game selection is available online. So they're pretty much selling all of like the major releases for Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, and now they're starting to have PS5 stuff as well. So I was able to pick up with this event a whole bunch of new Switch games that I kind of had been sleeping on for the past few years, including Luigi's Mansion 3. I'm really looking forward to getting to. I picked up Origami King and Xenoblade Chronicles. I know you just wrapped that one up.
Yes, I loved it.
The definitive edition, so I'm excited to hop into that at some point. I also got Mario Maker 2. I have no idea how active that still is. I don't know.
It's still relatively active.
Are the servers still online for that? They shut that down yet?
For Mario Maker 2? Yeah, they're still online.
Okay, good. Because when I thought about buying it, I mean, I got it for free, basically. But, I was like, man, is there really anything going on still with this game? So good to know that's still a thing.
Yeah.
I am lucky to, I'm excited to hop into that and mess around a little bit. I did play a bit of the first one, but it sounds like the second one is really just kind of like all that and more. So I will get to that soon, I'm sure.
That's awesome. I cannot believe that there exists this kind of easy way to just get new games with points.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything like that in the States that, has that. I'm sure there are point systems at like Best Buy or Walgreens or whatever, but Walgreens doesn't really sell video games in the United States, and Best Buy does. and they had like a gamers club thing for a while where you could plunk down like $30 for a 2-year membership,
yeah,
and
I
you would
remember
get
that.
like
Yeah.
a certain percentage off. So like that paid for itself and more after a little while, but it's not the same principle. You don't accumulate points from regular purchases and then get to use them toward video games. And I remember the first time you told me about that, I was driving home from giving a lesson, and I was on Discord with you in the car, and I was floored that even exists at all. It's like, remember when you when I took you to Wendy's in America and you were like, the 4 for $4, you just get this much food for $4.
Yeah, legit. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we have dollar menu here, but the dollar menu is never $1, you know. So like a junior chicken nowadays, I think it's like $2.50 or something, or a McDouble. I think they're like $2.79. Like it's not $1.
That's how I felt when you told me that existed. It was the same feeling.
Yeah, it's wild. When Lauren bought her Switch, she waited for them to have one of these events where you like get extra points for spending, money, a lot of money kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she paid, I mean, you still pay, like, don't get me wrong, you still pay full price for the Switch, but she effectively got something like $180 back in points. And if you wait to spend those points for when they have one of these like spend your points, get extra value events, it was effectively like, I don't know, like $280 worth of points or something like that.
Oh man.
That she just like spent on games, and like you could use it on a controller, like whatever it is, and like it's bonkers. And I feel like it's like there's some bigwig at Shoppers Drug Mart corporate who like doesn't realize that it works on electronics, maybe.
Or maybe he does, and he just doesn't care.
And I almost like feel remiss for like talking about it on here because I don't want people to know about it, because I feel like if enough people utilize it, they're gonna pull it at some point. I'm just waiting for the day where they're like, oh yeah, the program's no longer eligible for electronics or some shit. But as it stands right now, we're still.
Could you imagine?
We're still chugging on.
Oh no! Why is that? Oh, someone shopped here and then they had a podcast where they talked about it, and now it's all.
Yeah, that's my bad.
You're just like, well, that's too bad. Well, bye. You never go back.
Yeah, and I still have a ton of points left over too. So, whenever the next points event comes on, like, there's gonna be more. I'm buying more.
That's amazing. I still
Here's the thing, though, Matt. You worked at a game store. As good as Shoppers Drug Mart is.
You're allowed to have this.
Yeah. Give me this one thing. Any pickups this week?
This week I haven't gotten anything too terribly amazing. I finally got Clash at Demon Head for NES, which I'm surprised I didn't have
nice.
Up until this point. But somebody on Facebook Marketplace was selling a couple of really awesome things for really, really cheap. One of them being an original Game Boy complete in the box, and they only wanted $60. Unfortunately,
Okay,
I didn't
wow.
get it because the second it was posted, someone likely swooped in and said $60. That's less than a Game Boy is worth loose. So I'll take that. But he was also selling a black DS Lite, the Onyx Black one from launch, which I also didn't have. I have a couple other models of it, but I didn't have that one.
I had the white one, and the white one gets really grimy. Like there was like a plastic outer shell in like that kind of covered up, and I remember like all your like skin cells and dirt and grime would like, get jammed in between. It was nasty. I always wanted the black one.
If you look at
instead
it funny,
because of
it turns like all dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you picked that up?
Yeah, he only wanted $20, so I just I drove out there. It was about like a 30-minute drive, and we actually had a pretty good conversation about video games and the Long Island collecting community. He was a cool dude. There was one thing that I thought was funny, though. He was talking about some of his favorite collectibles and things, and he kept saying that he loved the character Samus Orion, like the constellation. And I'm not going to fault the guy. He didn't seem like he had a speech impediment because he pronounced all of his other words fine. But that was a little funny to me.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, like growing up, you were always like, you had the realization that Samus was not a boy.
Yeah.
And then at some point you found out that her last name was Aaron.
Yeah, I always just pronounced it Aaron because it's just
and then
it rolled off the tongue the most easily.
the Smash Brothers announcer really didn't help with any like childhood pronunciations because it was always like Samus. And I'm like, what?
Samus. when Other M came out, though, and I know Other M be damned by a lot of Metroid enthusiasts, they finally, in an official Metroid game, pronounce her name, Samus Aran. And I was like, okay, good.
They were like, make sure you really enunciate this one because nobody knows how to say it, and we want this to be the end of it.
Yes, and additionally, they also pronounce her suit Varia, not Varia. So,
oh, really? Oh, interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Which I always pronounced Varia on purpose because I knew that it came as a mistranslation of the Japanese word Baria for barrier.
Yes, I did know that. Come to think of it, the
so
barrier.
It's supposed to be barrier suit. So I always said Varia, and I was right. So,
which does sound cooler.
It does sound cooler, I think.
There was one. So I got really excited because the kind of yard sale, garage sale, whatever you want to call it, season starts up a little later here than I think it does there. Because snow for one,
of course.
And so the weather's finally warming up, and there was one in my neighborhood. I saw a bunch of signs for it, and I was like, oh, sick! Like garage sales are back on.
Yeah.
So I went and checked it out. They didn't have much, and so I was like Saturday morning. I was like, hey Lauren, like, do you want to go for a drive? We'll hit up some garage sales. And we drove around like probably like 5 or 6 different neighborhoods and not a single one. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I guess I got played by the one house in my neighborhood that is having a garage sale. And I interpreted that as, everybody and their dogs are going to have their garage sales. And I was kind of hoping that this year, and I mean, it might still be the case, it's yet to be seen, but I'm kind of hoping that this year garage sales might kind of pop off a little bit because everybody has had the past year to kind of maybe do some decluttering, in their house, and, they're at home. So I'm kind of hoping I'm holding out to hope that garage sales this year might be a little better than they've been in previous years. Because it's definitely kind of slowed down. People are a little bit more attuned to Facebook Marketplace and that kind of thing, and kind of knowing the value of their items. So I don't know. I love the good old fashioned garage sale. So I'm hoping that this year there'll be some good ones to hit up.
Yeah, one of my favorite thing about going is not just collecting and finding deals, but it's when people have yard sales, and especially estate sales, they're inviting you onto their property to take a look at their stuff, and a lot of times you get this small glimpse into how these people live because of the way that their property is arranged. And especially at an estate sale, you get to explore their entire home, or the home of a loved one who passed away, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that you find can be funny, strange, unsettling, sometimes very interesting. We went to an estate sale once years ago where this gentleman passed away, unfortunately, the point of the estate sale, and he lived alone, and you were allowed to tour pretty much the whole house. The only room that was off limits was like the boiler room. But we went into the basement.
Boiler's not for sale.
Yeah, boiler's not for sale. The door that separates the main room from the boiler room, that's for sale. Not the boiler. His whole basement was painted, decorated, and like just completely full of model train stuff. I'm talking hanging from the ceiling, all over the walls. The floor was just straight up a model village. It wasn't on a table. It was the floor.
He probably had one of those like hanging thingies, like you'd hang over your model set, and you like lay on this little flat thing, and it like retracts from the roof.
Yeah,
so you don't have to step on it all.
It was so cool. And
that's
of course,
awesome.
Like, it was all for sale, and at the same time, I was like, oh man, this should go. Like, are there museums for model train sets? I'd imagine somewhere in the United States, at the very least. We have tons and tons of niche museums for different things. We'll probably find one somewhere in Ohio or Arkansas.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing is that, if that was like a collection of video games that he had laid out there, you would shut your mouth and you'd be like, yeah, I'll take the lot. And I'm sure there's some other like model train collector who came in, and they were like, possibly. Oh shit, like here you are like ogling it all, being like, oh, this should be in a museum, and like behind you there's some like model train enthusiast, and he's like just like hyperventilating, be like, don't say anything.
I guess it's just because I don't know too much about the community behind model trains and like model train collecting and enthusiasm over
I
model
don't
trains.
either, but they seem sick. They seem
They
dope.
are like I had a couple when I was a kid because my dad bought me a few for different Christmases and birthdays because he liked them a little bit when we were when my sister and I were growing up, but I never really got into them because I liked video games more than anything else. Can you tell?
Yeah, fair.
But like I knew a little bit about them. That was pretty much it. But I mean, I knew that there were tons and tons of adults who were into them, and to see this man, may he rest in peace, his whole basement. His entire basement, from floor to wall to ceiling, even the windows, decorated to look like a model train village. It made me kind of sad to see that it was just going to be disassembled and sold off to people. But I guess, I guess you're kind of right. Like, if I passed away and I didn't put it in my will where I want my video games to go, the same thing would happen.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. Model trains are sick. Hit me up when I'm 60 years old. Like, I would put a good bet that I'm gonna have some sort of model train set.
You think
Lauren's
so?
probably looking at me like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Yeah. Hey Jackie, if I got a model train set and I like just wall to ceilings, floor,
wall to
kitchen.
ceilings, but not floor.
Yeah. I fucked up. It's fine. would that be okay? What? Come here. Hey guys, this is Jackie, my girlfriend. If I got a model train set and I just decorated our whole apartment with a model train set, would that be okay?
I mean, I guess.
Okay, that's all I needed you.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Okay.
You're in.
Yeah, I'm in. All right, guys. Super FX is rebranding. We're gonna rebrand to Choo Chooper FX, and we're gonna become a train podcast. That got you?
Choo Chooper. Okay, what else we got?
Yeah, well, one of the things I wanted to talk about as far as collecting is concerned, and I mentioned the store and different things. There was a segment that I wanted to touch upon. Types of collectors that kind of rub us the wrong way, because there are different types of people who collect different types of games, different genres. They collect different ways. Some people collect only boxed games. Some people only collect loose. Some people only collect the boxes, which I think is a little strange. But there are a couple of different types of collectors that make me uneasy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Do you have any that are just like, why? Or how can you be this way?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen... Okay, so one that kind of immediately comes to mind is I was selling a couple, like, doubles a while back on maybe Facebook. It was maybe on Reddit. And the guy had asked me... it was a PS2 or an Xbox game. It was something with, like, the slip art,
Yeah.
And I had to... He asked me, can you please pull out the paper artwork from inside the plastic sleeve and take a photo of the front and the back of that paper insert?
Wow.
And it wasn't even... I would get that if it was something that was, like, exceedingly rare, right? Like, if it was something that was worth, like, several $100s, and But it wasn't. It was... I think... I honestly think it might have been, like, Brain Age 2 or something like that. And, like, a $5...
$5 USD.
Exactly.
Thing.
Yeah. And, like, I get it. Like, I get the desire to want to have this, like, immaculate collection. And, like... I understand. There's the whole thing about like video game grading, right? And like you send it in and you get it graded. And the same thing with like hockey cards and baseball cards and that kind of thing. But I don't know. There's just something about like, especially if it's an online transaction. Like if you're in person and you go to a game store and you're just flipping through and you want to like see the condition of the cover or whatever, you slide it out. Like be my guest, whatever, no problem. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're doing an online transaction and you're making the seller like, I have this huge box full of doubles, and he's like, can you go dig that one out for me and slide, this common $5 game and slide out the paper insert for me and take some photos of the front and the back just so I know, because like, heaven forbid if there was a little nick or a little scratch or a tear in my
on
Brain
the
Age
insert
2.
to my $5 Brain Age 2.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly what it boils down to. I totally understand the reasoning behind why he would ask to do that. But if the game is so insanely cheap, then like, oh no, like I got it and it has a little bit of a nick. Like, do you know how easy it's going to be to find another one?
Exactly.
Like it's way different if it's like, oh cool, Panic Restaurant complete in the box. Can I please have photos of literally everything from every angle? Considering the game is worth, I don't know, $700. That's way more understandable.
Totally fair.
Yeah, very fair. Recently, there's been kind of like a kick up about grading sealed games for whatever reason. I keep noticing it, and it's not necessarily that these collectors bother me, but I just don't understand the significance of buying sealed games just to grade them for the value. Like, what really is the point there?
Yeah, that's a whole nother can of worms, I think. I mean, I honestly personally can't stand the idea of a sealed game.
Yeah, I can't
I would
either. That's
never.
one thing just by itself.
Yeah, like, it's a game. Like, games are meant to be played, right? Take the game out of the box and put it in, right? Like, that's the reason it exists. And in my eyes, there's such less intrinsic value for something that is like literally just sitting there in the shrink wrap. And I mean, like, we can get into action figure collectors and comic book collectors and sneaker collectors. There are people who will buy sneakers and not wear them.
Yeah,
Right.
but the thing is, there's a difference between. I'm sorry to cut you off, but there's a difference between, collectibles when you're talking about like different things, like comic books and figurines. For the most part, are like they rely very heavily on just the visual aspect. Like if you have an action figure and you collect them, putting them on a shelf is pretty much like their peak performance as a collectible. But
right.
Video games are fully interactable. That's not their peak performance.
Absolutely, yeah. An action figure will sit on the shelf regardless if it's in the package or not.
Yeah.
And, you'll look at it, you might handle it a little bit here and there, but, its prime purpose is to sit on the shelf and look nice.
Yeah.
Whereas the video game is like, there's a lot more to the package.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the reason I got into collecting video games is because I like playing video games. I love it. Why would I want to have video games on my shelf that I will never open?
Yeah.
I want to play them.
It's pretty mind-boggling to me. I mean, no disrespect. If you're out there listening and you have a sealed game collection, all the power to you. But
especially because I can only imagine the amount of money you've had to spend to do that.
I secretly hope one day your kid comes in there and opens up one of those games and plays it.
Dad, don't be mad or anything, but I really wanted to play this game you had called Stadium Events. Dad pops a new vein. A vein that has never been discovered by scientists before.
Several $1,000s down there.
Oh, man. But this actually brings me slightly to our next topic. I wanted to touch upon a story from this past week, and it kind of coincides with the kinds of collectors that rub you the wrong way. So here's a game store story. I guess that's what we're going to call this segment. I was down at the Trading Post, the original location in Levittown, and Jason was there. He's a good friend of mine and an employee there. And it was just the two of us kind of hanging out. He was behind the counter. I went down there because I just wanted to, see what was up and maybe pick up a thing or two. That's where I got Clash at Demon Head. And some guy walks in, and I can already tell that this is going to be an interesting time because he walks in with a handful of games, and they're all boxed NES games and very good condition loose NES games. And not
fun.
that many. Yeah, there's like 3 boxed NES games, 3 loose NES games. They're all commons or common adjacent. Like the loosies were Zelda Gold, Castlevania 3, and Castlevania 2. And the boxed ones, and again, they were open. They were CIB. They weren't sealed. Were RC Pro-Am, Excite Bike, and Donkey Kong Classics. And he comes in, and I'm going to attempt to do my best impression of this guy because his voice made it for me. Like, so he pops his stuff down on the table, and he looks Jason dead in the eyes and he's like, "Yo, what's up, man? Listen, I got some minty fresh games here, like really good collectibles." And already, the second he uses the phrase "minty fresh," I've checked out. I'm out.
For all you listeners out there, this impression is not all that far off from Matt's impression of his own mother.
You think? Yeah, you think so? Mom, if you're listening, I guess I don't know. Really, you think that? Anyway,
maybe all of the Long Islanders' accents are kind of meshed together.
He was a little gravelly, but so Jason and I having years of collecting experience and also experience working at the store, you can already tell that yes, these are in really good condition. So he doesn't need to brag about it, but I get it. He's proud of his collection.
Minty fresh.
But as soon as he brings them in, within seconds, we already know how much it's worth. And he's like, "Yeah, I got some minty fresh stuff here. Like, this is the way you got to do it, man. You got to collect games in the box, otherwise, it's not worth it." And I'm just like, I'm just not saying a word. I'm just watching this transpire. So Jason's like, "Yeah, man, no problem. I'll price you up." He's like, "Yeah, man, I wanted cash for these, so like, I don't know, you got to be reasonable with me. I'm a collector. I know what I've got. Don't lowball me." I'm like, okay. This guy is not going to be happy with literally anything that we tell him because we're a mom and pop store. So we cannot give him the full value for these items because we have to sell them for the real value and make a profit without price gouging people. So,
of course.
The stuff that he has on the table is worth around like maybe $250 because it's in good condition and 3 of the games are boxed. And that's how much we would sell that lot for. So Jason offers him in cash, which is already, we tend to do less in cash at the store because store credit really helps push our merchandise. And I'm sure a lot of you listening have already dealt with this sort of thing where, yeah, I know, you get more in store credit for a trade-in, and if you want cash, you have to settle for a little bit less. But we're able to keep our prices close to price charting because we do business this way. This way we help the next person along who wants to collect without having to raise the prices to absurdly high amounts. So Jason offers him $100 cash, which would have been a lot more in store credit, but he wants cash. Right. And he's like, "Oh, no, I was looking at maybe like, I don't know, like 300 or 400. And Jason and I look at each other, and he looks back at the guy, and he's just like, "Yeah, I just don't see that much value here." And the guy's like, "What, are you kidding? Like, this is classic NES. Look how minty fresh these..." Like, he kept using the words minty fresh.
Minty fresh.
And it put an itch on the roof of my mouth that only a shotgun could scratch. So, I'm sure he's probably like a nice person in real life, but this was just one of those moments where it's like, this kind of collector who he claims he's a collector, and I believe him, but at the same time, he should know that that's not how much these are worth. And we're going by like actual price charting prices when we quote people on their trade-ins. So
yeah,
why does he think that these are worth $400? They're not even close.
So
they're not even
did
$3.
Did he take it, or did he just walk?
So like Jason called Mike up on the phone, and Mike was like, "Pass on it. That's stupid." So.
Yeah.
The guy was not having it. After Jason told him that Mike said no, he was like, "Oh, no, come on, man, really? Come on. Like, I've done so much for Mike." Which is another, like, he just starts whining and complaining about it. And, if you're a collector and, you want to sell your games and you want to get decent value out of them, I get that. And power to you. But you have to also understand the way that this sort of thing goes, especially if you're expecting a ludicrously high amount for your games when they're not even worth that much. Like, if we sold them, they wouldn't be worth that much. So I can't give that to you. We wouldn't make a profit.
So he didn't take it, or no?
They eventually, Jay called Mike back and they settled on $150 cash, which I thought was totally fine, but just the amount of back and forthing and him whining like a little child about it. because this is the short version of the story. It went on for like 45 minutes where he was just talking about how rare his game collection is and how he collects boxed games only and sometimes sealed because that's the only way to go, and like some of these games are like limitless possibilities when you play them, and like that sort of conversation is, speculative, and I like that, where we're talking about, hey, I like Zelda because this, and not necessarily like I only collect boxed games because this, and like I don't want to have that conversation. That's up to you. You're not going to convince me to start collecting boxed games. I do collect boxed games, but I like to piece games together, just because I want to play them. So like if I come into a couple of loose cartridges here and there, that's fine. I'll get the boxes and manuals later. But I can't be that type of collector who only collects boxed games. I'll run out of money really fast, and it'll also take a lot of the eureka moments off of collecting, where you find someone like discarded a manual somewhere at like a yard sale, and it's a manual that you didn't have and you were missing it, and now it's finally complete. And like I get a rush from that sort of moment, so I do it on purpose.
the manual is finally not missing.
Yeah, Manuel is finally found after all this time. All those eBay sellers who spell everything else correctly but not manual. But so that was a fun little story. But has Sonic aged well?
Sonic as a character or Sonic as a game?
Okay, that's another little interesting topic. We'll do this really quickly because we talked about it a little bit before the podcast, and then you were like, "Why aren't we recording this? This is gold. This is brilliant."
It's brilliant, sir.
Yes. If you had to pick one video game character that you feel has aged the most poorly over time, who would it be? Because my pick is Sonic.
See, I was thinking Bubsy. Right. Bubsy, I don't think aged very well. Bubsy was a manufactured mascot, right? Like they wanted a Mario, they wanted a Sonic, and they were like, let's put our heads together and come up with something, and Bubsy is what they came up with. So that's what I thought.
My argument against Bubsy, not to make you upset, but Bubsy.
Why would it make me upset? You think I'm a Bubsy stan?
You think I'm a Bubsy fanatic, sir?
I ain't.
Yeah,
Bubsy
I only own one of each copy of every game. Come on. Bubsy is still very much a product of his time because he had all that time where he was not receiving any new software, and then he had a retro revival, which is still done in the same vein as his older stuff. So there's this kind of microcosm of Bubsy, whereas Sonic has existed all the way up until now, and yet they just still can't seem to find the best Sonic formula. And well, in my opinion, they did find it. It was Sonic Mania. Everybody loved that game, but I don't know if they're ever going to do that again. But Sonic can never find a foothold in today's game world. He I don't understand what it is about this character, and I love him to death, don't get me wrong. But he's aged so terribly. What you're saying, with it.
What you're saying is that Sonic did not age well. However, Bubsy did not age, period, because he was pretty much dead on arrival.
There you go. Feel free to debate us in the comments.
Sonic is tough. It's a tough one. I love Sonic as a character. I love everything about the Sonic games. I love the art style. I love the music. I love the characterization. I just hate the gameplay. Sonic games suck. Don't at me. I know y'all in the comments are going to be all upset about this. Yeah. This is how we lose all of the few subscribers that we do have. There's so many good things to like about Sonic, except the gameplay sucks, and maybe that's another can of worms that we can go down.
Yeah, and I mean he's no Bubsy, so.
Oh jeez. we should do a bracket. We should do like a like old retro
worst video game mascots of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I would totally do that. Yeah, I look forward to that in a future episode, I guess. But I guess that'll do it for this show.
I think it will.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks for listening. To learn more about SuperFX, you can visit our website, superfxpodcast.com, and you can also follow us on social media, including Twitter. We have a YouTube. We got Facebook at SuperFX Podcast. Please reach out with any comments or questions on social media. You can send us an email, hi@superfxpodcast.com, hi like hello. at superfxpodcast.com. And if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, it would be totally cool of you if you consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/superfxpodcast. If you're listening on YouTube, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, help us out by rating and reviewing our show. And special thanks to Kenny Martin for our theme song. You can find him at Kenma, it's Kenma, .bandcamp.com. And as always, a special thanks to you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Tyler, say goodbye.
Goodbye.